the clink of crystal glasses, and the low murmur of expensive conversations wrapped around the restaurant like silk. Every table glimmered under warm amber light. Every smile was polished, rehearsed. Lena Park stepped inside and immediately felt the weight of the room's gaze. Not because she was breathtaking, though she was in her own understated way, but because she didn't belong here. She knew it, and she wanted them to know it too. She spotted her blind date at a corner table, perfectly pressed suit, slicked back hair, eyes glued to his phone. He didn't even look up as she approached.
Good.
Let's make this quick. Sorry I'm late, Lena said, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. She dropped into her seat without waiting for an invitation, tossed her clutch on the table like it was a grocery bag, and reached for the bread basket before the waiter could even greet her. His head finally lifted. Cold eyes swept over her. You're
Lena?
Obviously, she said around a mouthful of bread, ignoring the way he blinked in mild horror. What's good here? Oh, never mind. I'll order for both of us. From across the room, Ethan's CEO noticed her. He'd been mid-sentence in a quiet discussion with two investors, but his words stalled as soon as she appeared. Bright-eyed, messy in a way that didn't fit this place, and unapologetically loud, she was a splash of color on a black and white canvas. I'll have the truffle pasta, Lena told the waiter. And he'll have the steak.
Rare.
With extra sauce. Her date's jaw twitched. I didn't. You'll like it, she cut in, smiling like she'd just done him a favor. Ethan couldn't stop watching. Not because she was rude. No, there was something deliberate in it. Her voice wavered only once, when her eyes flicked toward the large windows as if searching for an escape. Her date leaned back, his voice sharp. So, what do you do? Other than show up late and order for people you don't know? Lena swallowed her bread slowly, met his gaze, and said, I terrify spoiled rich boys into leaving me alone. How am I doing so far? Several heads turned. The man's face flushed deep red. You think this is cute, he hissed, leaning forward. You think you can act like trash and… Ethan's chair scraped the floor. His investors froze, following his line of sight, but before he could move toward her, the waiter approached with their drinks. Lena leaned back, feigning boredom, but her hands, hidden under the table, were curled into fists. Her aunt had begged her to give this man a chance she had no intention of taking. Better to burn the bridge before she was trapped on it. Her date smirked suddenly, leaning back. You know, girls like you're all the same. A nice dress, a fake smile, and you think you can. Girls like me? Her voice was icy now, cutting through the murmurs around them. What exactly is a girl like me, Mr. Perfect? He sneered. Gold digger material. Nothing more. The word landed like a slap. For a second, Lena's carefully constructed mask cracked. Ethan caught it, the brief flinch, the flash of hurt, and something twisted in his chest. A photographer from a local gossip page appeared out of nowhere, camera flashing. Lena turned away instinctively, but too late. The moment, the raised voices, the tension, was captured forever. She stood abruptly, grabbing her clutch. Thanks for dinner. I'll let myself out. You haven't even. But she was already walking, chin high, eyes burning. Ethan watched her stride past, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. And just before she pushed open the glass doors, she glanced back, not at her date, but straight at him. Their eyes locked for the briefest heartbeat. It was enough. She disappeared into the night. Ethan's investors tried to pull him back into conversation, but he didn't hear them. His mind was still caught on that look, the fire behind it, the strange fragility she fought to hide. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But he knew one thing. He wasn't done with her. The charity gala was a nightmare Lena hadn't wanted to attend. She stood at the back of the grand ballroom, the golden chandeliers spilling warm light across polished marble floors. Every guest shimmered in evening wear, their laughter blending with the soft strains of a live string quartet. It was the kind of event where one wrong word could turn into a city-wide scandal by morning. Her aunt had insisted she come. It'll fix your image after that restaurant stunt. Her aunt had also failed to mention the blind date from hell would be here too. Lena caught sight of him near the buffet table, his champagne flute poised like a prop in a bad drama. And, of course, he wasn't alone. He was surrounded by a small group, speaking with a theatrical air, punctuating every sentence with smug glances in her direction. She didn't need to get closer to guess what he was saying. The fake laugh of one of the women in the group carried across the room. Then, like a knife through silk, his voice reached her. "She's a nobody. Tried to play me for a free dinner. Pathetic, really." A ripple of quiet snickers followed. Lena's nails dug into her palm. Her aunt's warning echoed in her head. Don't cause a scene. But the heat rising in her chest burned hotter than her self-control. She stepped forward before she realized what she was doing. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble, drawing attention. Conversations faltered. And then she was on the small stage, fingers curling around the microphone stand. "Since we're telling stories tonight," she began, her voice calm but caring, "I think it's only fair that I share mine." Dozens of eyes turned toward her, some curious, some eager for blood. Across the room, Ethan Seo paused mid-conversation, the champagne glass in his hand untouched. He hadn't expected to see her again, but here she was, standing under the spotlight with fire in her eyes. "My blind date," Lena continued, nodding toward the man who was now frozen in place, "seems to think a woman saying no politely isn't enough. That maybe if he embarrasses her in front of strangers, she'll what? Change her mind? Apologize." Her tone didn't waver, but her pulse thundered in her ears. "Newsflash, I wasn't rude because I'm desperate for attention. I was rude because I could smell your arrogance before I even sat down." Gasps. Whispers. Someone in the back smothered a laugh. Ethan's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but something close. Lena let the silence hang, every second stretching tighter, before setting the microphone back. "That's all. Enjoy the shrimp cocktail." The room erupted into murmurs as she walked off the stage, head high. She didn't look toward her date. She didn't have to. His reddening face was satisfaction enough. Ethan moved before he could think about it, intercepting her near the side corridor. "You have a talent," he said, his voice low and smooth. She stopped short, eyes narrowing. "For what? Making enemies?" "For shutting people up," he replied. His gaze was steady, and for a moment, the din of the gala seemed to fade. Most people would have swallowed the insult and smiled. You didn't. Her lips curved in a humorless smile. "That's not a compliment. It's survival." Ethan studied her, the poise she carried like armor, the spark in her eyes that refused to be dimmed. "You're not what you pretend to be," he said finally. "Neither are you," she shot back before stepping past him. Her heels clicked away, but Ethan didn't move. Her words had landed sharper than he'd expected. Across the room, cameras flashed as the gossip blogger from last night took photos again, clearly sensing a new headline. Ethan's jaw tightened. This wasn't over. Cliffhanger. As Lena reached the exit, she glanced over her shoulder. Ethan was still watching her, his expression unreadable. But there was something in his eyes that told her he wasn't just curious. He was interested. And in Lena's world, that was dangerous. The rain had stopped just before dawn, leaving the city streets smelling faintly of wet asphalt and blooming jacaranda. Lena stood behind the espresso machine at the university cafe, her hair pulled into a loose bun, sleeves rolled up, focused on the hiss and steam. The morning crowd was predictable, students cramming for midterms, professors half awake, the occasional tourist stumbling in. She liked it that way. Predictable meant safe. The door chimed. She didn't look up. "Double espresso. No sugar," a deep voice said. Her hand froze mid-motion. She glanced up, and her heart gave an involuntary lurch. Ethan Seo stood at the counter, wearing a charcoal suit that looked criminally out of place among hoodies and backpacks. "You," she said flatly. His lips curved slightly. "Good morning to you, too." She busied herself with the portafilter. "I'm pretty sure there's a boardroom somewhere crying because their CEO ran away to a coffee shop." He leaned on the counter, watching her. "I own the building. I thought I'd check on my tenants." Her eyes narrowed. "You're kidding." "Not even a little." The espresso machine hissed between them like it could sense the static in the air. She slid his cup across the counter. $2, she said. Ethan didn't move to take it. You're not going to ask why I'm here again? No, she replied, wiping down the counter. I already know. Do you? You're bored. Rich men always are. For a beat, he just studied her. Maybe I'm curious. Curiosity is dangerous, she said, finally meeting his gaze. It makes people think they have the right to know more than they should. Before he could respond, a male voice called from the corner. Lena, can I get a refill? It was Daniel, a fellow student, tall, charming, with the kind of easy grin that made people feel instantly welcome. He was leaning back in his chair, clearly comfortable in her presence. Ethan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Be right there, Lena said, moving to the back counter. Daniel shot her a playful smile, and she returned it, not noticing the way Ethan's eyes followed every flicker of expression on her face. When she came back to the register, Ethan was still there, but his tone had shifted, cooler. Friend of yours? Yes. Unlike you, he pays for his coffee without interrogating me. Ethan finally picked up his cup. Careful, Lena. You might make me jealous. She blinked. That's absurd. Is it? He took a sip, eyes never leaving hers. See you tomorrow. And just like that, he left, the door chime echoing in his wake. Later that night, Lena was closing the cafe when her phone buzzed with a notification. Her stomach dropped. New post from City Gossip Live. Student barista caught flirting with mysterious businessman. Who is he? The photo was grainy but clear enough. Her and Ethan at the counter, him leaning toward her, the air between them electric. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through the comments. She's climbing the ladder fast. Gold digger alert. Isn't that the same girl who caused the scene at the charity gala? She didn't see the black car parked across the street, headlights off. Inside, Ethan sat in the driver's seat, his jaw set. He'd seen the post too, and he knew exactly who was behind it. Cliffhanger. Ethan reached for his phone, his voice cold as he made the call. Find out who leaked that photo. And make sure they regret it. The cafe felt colder than usual that night. Lena sat alone at a corner table, the blinds half drawn, her phone face down beside an untouched cup of tea. The gossip post had already been shared hundreds of times. Her name wasn't mentioned, but the comments made it clear they knew who she was. She'd spent the afternoon ignoring calls from her aunt, from classmates, even from Daniel. But there was one number she couldn't ignore because it hadn't stopped flashing across her phone since the sun went down. Ethan's CO. The chime above the door startled her. She looked up, ready to tell the customer they were closed, but it wasn't a customer. Ethan walked in like he owned the air in the room, the dim light catching in the sharp lines of his face. His suit jacket was gone, his tie loosened, but there was nothing casual about him. You've been avoiding me, he said. I've been avoiding everyone. She pushed her chair back, creating distance. You shouldn't be here. I should, he countered, because I know who leaked that photo. Her pulse jumped, but she forced herself to stay calm. Let me guess. Another bored rich boy with too much time on his hands. Close, Ethan said, stepping closer. Your blind date from that night. The law firm heir. He's been feeding stories to the gossip site for weeks. Lena's chest tightened. Why would he? Because you embarrassed him. Ethan cut in. Men like him don't forgive public humiliation. They ruin people quietly, so it looks like they never lifted a finger. The words landed like cold water. She hated that it made sense. I'll make him stop, Ethan said. Permanently. She laughed without humor. Of course. The CEO solution. Crush anyone who stands in your way. His gaze didn't waver. You think this is about me? It always is, she shot back. You, she stopped frowning. Wait. How do you even know he's the one? Silence stretched. Ethan's jaw tightened. Because I've been watching him. Since the night we met. Her heart thudded once, hard. Watching me? His voice was low, measured. You don't know this, but I was at the restaurant that night before you even walked in. I saw you stop in the rain to help an elderly waiter pick up groceries he dropped on the curb. I saw you laugh and wave it off when he tried to thank you. And then 10 minutes later, I watched you walk into that blind date and turn into someone else entirely. I wanted to know why. Lena felt her breath catch. The image hit her, him sitting there, watching her play a part while she thought no one could see through it. You don't know me, she said quietly. I want to, he said simply. But you keep running. Something in his tone made her want to look away, but she didn't. And what then, Ethan? You find out I'm not from your world, not rich, not polished. And then what? You lose interest? His eyes darkened. I'm not like him. Maybe not, she said, standing. But you still think you can walk into my life and fix things without asking if I want you to. She grabbed her bag, brushing past him toward the door, but his voice stopped her. He's planning something bigger, Ethan said. That post was just a warning shot. And if you won't let me help you, you'd better start preparing for war. Her hand froze on the door handle. The restaurant was the kind of place where waiters moved like shadows, chandeliers dripped gold, and every table seemed to hum with whispered power. A place she had no business being in, and yet here she was. Maya clutched her handbag tighter as she stood in the marble-floored lobby, watching the maitre d' walk ahead. Every instinct told her to turn around, to run before she became just another silly girl caught in the orbit of a man like Adrian Blackwell. But her pride, stubborn as ever, rooted her in place. The maitre d' led her to the farthest table in the corner, secluded, dimly lit, intimate. And there he was. Adrian sat with the casual authority of a man who could buy the entire building and have it rebuilt by morning. The soft glow from the candle flickered over his sharp cheekbones, the tailored black suit, and the silver watch that probably cost more than her entire apartment. His eyes found hers instantly, the corners of his lips lifting ever so slightly. Maya. His voice was warm silk, but it carried an unspoken weight, as though saying her name meant claiming it. She forced a polite smile, sliding into the seat opposite him. You could have picked somewhere less dramatic, she said, glancing at the menu with prices that made her dizzy. He didn't answer. Instead, he studied her, assessed her, as though her every gesture was a page in a book he was trying to read. Finally, he said, You tried to scare me off last time. Maya froze for half a beat before recovering. I didn't try. I succeeded. His smirk deepened. And yet you're here. Why am I here? She thought. Because he'd sent a driver? Because part of her was curious about what it felt like to be seen by a man who looked at her like she was the only thing in the room worth noticing? Or because some dangerous part of her wanted to push him, just to see how far his patience went? The waiter arrived with a bottle of wine, but Maya waved it away. Just water, please. Adrian watched the exchange, leaning back in his chair. You don't drink. I don't waste my money on things that don't last. She caught the flicker of surprise in his eyes before looking down at her menu. You talk like someone who's been keeping score for a long time, he said quietly. That landed harder than she wanted to admit. Her gaze snapped up, but his face gave nothing away, only that cool, unreadable intensity. Dinner passed in a strange, unspoken dance. He asked questions that were too specific, and she deflected with answers that revealed nothing. She teased him, and he took it, but always with that glint in his eyes that said he saw more than she wanted him to. And then, just when she thought the evening might end without incident, his tone shifted. Maya, he said, voice low, you're not like the women I usually meet. You don't flatter me. You don't care about the cars, the penthouse, the name. That's why I can't stop thinking about you. Her breath caught. She hated the way her heart reacted to those words, how it stumbled in her chest. You don't know me, she said sharply. I will, he replied without hesitation. The table felt too small, the air too thick. She grabbed her bag, standing abruptly. This was a bad idea. Maya. But she was already walking away, her heels clicking against the marble floor, the sound too loud in her ears. Halfway to the exit, she stopped. Two men in dark suits stood by the door, their eyes on her, not the casual glance of strangers, but the focused, assessing stare of people with an agenda. Her skin prickled. She turned back toward Adrian's table. He was already on his feet, jaw tight, moving toward her. "Don't move," he said in a tone that made the room fade away. Her pulse thundered. Something told her this night was about to spiral into something far more dangerous than awkward dinners and unspoken attraction. And for the first time, Maya realized she might not be the only one hiding something. The sound of rain against the glass was relentless, a muted roar that filled the silence between them. Sitting across the glossy mahogany desk in the CEO's private office, Mia felt the weight of his gaze like a physical touch. The city lights shimmered behind him, fractured by the raindrops on the floor-to-ceiling windows. She had only come here to return his umbrella. Nothing else. No lingering glances. No late-night conversations. Definitely not the way her pulse raced now. "Why didn't you tell me?" Adrian's voice was low, a dangerous calm. Mia's breath caught. Tell him what? That I'd been pretending? That the rude, cold act was a shield, not my real self? "I don't know what you mean," she lied, her tone clipped. He leaned forward, elbows resting on the desk. "From the first night, you tried to push me away. But last week, when you defended me in front of the board," his eyes softened just enough to make her chest ache. "That wasn't someone who didn't care. That was someone who was afraid to admit they do." Her fingers tightened around the umbrella's handle. "You're imagining things." "Am I?" His voice was silk over steel. "Then tell me, Mia, why did you look at me like that in the restaurant yesterday?" She froze. She had looked at him, really looked, when she thought he wasn't paying attention. Not as the arrogant CEO who was supposed to be her blind date, but as a man who carried a loneliness she recognized in herself. Adrian stood, walking slowly around the desk until he was in front of her. He was close enough that she could smell the faint trace of rain and cedar on his suit. "You don't have to be rude to keep me away," he said quietly. "Because I'm not leaving." Her heart lurched. "You don't even know me. Then let me." His words hit harder than they should have, and before she could stop herself, a laugh escaped, soft, almost bitter. "Adrian, I'm a student barely making rent."
"You're you, CEO. Rich."
"Untouchable. What do you think we are, some romance novel?" His jaw tightened, but there was a flicker of something raw in his eyes. "I think you're the first person who's made me want to fight for an answer." Mia turned away, her nails digging into her palm. This was dangerous. She had built walls to survive, and yet, one steady look from him made them feel like paper. When she finally met his gaze again, she whispered, "I wasn't rude because I didn't like you. I was rude because I couldn't afford to like you." The admission hung between them like the aftershock of an earthquake. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then Adrian stepped closer, his voice almost a vow. "Too late. I already do." Her breath hitched. She should have told him to stop. She should have walked out. But instead, she stood there, every part of her trembling. Not from fear, but from the terrifying hope blooming in her chest. Before she could speak, his phone buzzed on the desk. The screen lit up with a name that made her blood run cold. Vivian Lane. She'd heard of her, a high-profile socialite, rumored to be Adrian's almost fiancé. Adrian's jaw clenched, but he didn't answer. "Ignore it," he said. But the phone kept ringing, and Mia's heart kept sinking. Because no matter what he'd just said, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into something much bigger and much more dangerous than either of them realized.